Hello, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the TMI show, Ted Manila Information Show. That over there would be the Ted of the show, Ted Rawl, and I'm Manila Chan. What is today? Thursday, the 27th of February. One more day in this very short month. I always hate February, Ted, because it really just messes up my calendar or just planning out a month. Because I'm one of those people that's like obsessed with my calendars and have clocks everywhere.
I would think this would be the easiest month for you to plan around because it's the only month in which the number of a 7-day week can be divided into evenly. I mean, February, with the exception of leap year, was exactly 4 weeks.
With the exception, yeah, but the fact that the majority of the months have at least 30 days before, I have to handwrite things in because that's how I have a blank calendar. And it just always messes me up because I want to keep going like 29, 30, 31. So this just messes me up. You just need more time. We all need more time, right? Anyway, warning that we do drop F-bombs. So I don't want to hear about it. You've been warned. We're live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. So please be sure to like and follow this show. We are continuing to try to grow this thing as we approach like 100 episodes. We're on 87, Ted. So we're trying to grow. It has slowed, obviously. We need your help. Please share this program if you can. Just anything you can do to help us grow and keep this thing going before Ted and I are forced to get real jobs.
Oh yeah, I've already started, full transparency, I've already started applying to some of those.
Oh, me too. Me too. Just in the past week or two. And not to say that media isn't a real job. It is. And it's actually quite draining and a lot of actual behind the scenes work goes into it. Believe it or not.
There's a lot that goes on here that you don't see.
Yeah.
But you can imagine. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to imagine. Like, we have to know what we're going to talk about. We have to prepare.
You have to research.
We discuss and debate. And it's all the little things, like each
finding videos, getting guests.
Even the little things like creating the thumbnails, a new thumbnail every single day. Little description has to be written up for each show.
And of course, fighting the big tech companies, Ted, because they're always trying to censor. So we're always fighting them. And otherwise,
it's pretty not. The problem is it's really nonsensical. It's not like there's a clear set of rules. Like, if you never drive over 55 miles an hour on the highway, you'll never get a ticket. But like, that's not true about YouTube or something. I mean, I literally just had a video taken down in my not taken down. I've had my entire channel, limited to people over the age of 18 for completely inexplicably. There's nothing obscene about anything that's on my channol.
There's no Ted Rawl porn there.
No. And who would want that anyway? But there's there's none of that. And they took off. This was over something that I had posted 15 years ago and sat there for 15 years, unmolested, thousands of people looking at it, no muss, no fuss. Suddenly, and they're like, we have made this decision and it is unappealable. I mean, so, and we've had, this is just one thing. And we've had
my entire channel, my personal channel that has been sitting there for 12 or 15 years. I haven't posted anything to it for easily 16 or 18 months. and it was kind of just dormant and abandoned, and YouTube nuked the entire channel. The entire channel. There's nothing new. There was nothing. I haven't done anything. Nothing. Nuked the entire whole channel that has just lived there for more than a decade. Never, ever breaking any content rules. So this is what we're up against, and we're always constantly, fighting big tech. So without your help, you guys are going to get stuck with mainstream media, and that's it. And if we learned anything from the Joy Reid show, Ted, you can do the grift for 3 to 5 years or whatever it was that she was on MSNBC with like 60,000 viewers at any given time that her show was on. Do you know that was her average?
I knew she didn't have. I mean, look, it's not just her. I knew her show wasn't very highly rated, even by MSNBC standards. But MSNBC itself, overall, has had really bad ratings for a long time. It was doing very well at one point. I mean,
yeah,
but I think that was like the 90s.
It's heyday. It's heydays, way
the
over.
Keith Olbermann days. That's when they were really making
Keith Olbermann. There was Ed Schultz. Rachel Maddow did not have a show yet. She was just a contributor.
I was a frequent guest all the time.
Heyday for MSNBC, long over. And yet somehow those people continue to be employed, like Chris Hayes.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, the cliche in broadcast media is always that if you have the ratings, you're safe. But that's not really true.
Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, Bill O'Reilly had the ratings, and
Tucker.
Yeah, that's right. On my old radio show in LA, I had the best ratings in the history of the radio station, which was very old for that time slot. Didn't matter. The new bosses came in, and they were like, all the lefties have to go, and that was it.
That's wild.
And then they replaced me with Marsha Clark.
Oh God, with the bad hair.
She
the
was
lawyer.
The OJ DA. She was, and she did as good a job, making points on KFI as she did prosecuting OJ.
Or getting a good hairstyle. Just saying.
Yeah, her hair was. Yeah, I've seen better hair. I've seen worse hair. I mean, I'm not one to judge when it comes to hair, so I'm judgy with hair. I'm in no position to be. Well, it's because you're Asian. Asian people can always look at your hair sucks. It's like, yeah, of course you're Asian. You can say that.
Have these long, beautiful
best hair. It's true.
These long, beautiful locks that are very healthy.
It's true. Yeah.
Kind of true. Kind of true.
It was very cute. My son,
wigs, Ted.
My son, who's
that's
Asian,
why they. That's right. That's why they want Eric's hair too.
I know. And the first time he has long hair, the first time he went to Asia, and he was like, it was amazing. It's like I'd never seen so many people with black hair, and I was like, most people in the world overwhelmingly have black hair. I mean, overwhelmingly. It's probably 3/4 of humanity.
The hair that's on demand, this is no joke, in the wig industry.
Oh, I know.
Is Asian hair.
No. I've seen the signs in
South Asian
in hair salons here in New York. If
Asian
you want to sell your hair, I mean, you're Asian, especially.
Especially, they want Asian hair. I don't know, for whatever reason, it's fairly resilient. Me, I got it. It was mine thinned after I stopped nursing, after I stopped breastfeeding. The hair just kind of fell out. It's only now growing back. My kid is 6.
Wow.
So, but yeah, it's because
that's worrisome.
It happens to a ton of women. I will talk about this a whole.
Do you think it's a perimenopausal thing?
No. Mine happened. It's very common once you stop breastfeeding. So mine has been slowly growing back the last 5 years, basically. After I found natural
you should have done
remedies.
Like my old agent who breastfed till her kid was 8.
Oh my God, no!
I know, right? And I was like,
I know people like that, by the way.
And literally, I was like, so my rule is,
no.
Once they can ask for it by name, it ends.
No, once they have a mouthful of teeth, it's over. That's
right,
that's.
But also, especially if by the time they're able to, maybe review the quality on Yelp, today's serving was not up to its normal. Up to its normal
She had
standard.
curry last night for dinner. And
oh my God, that reminds me of this story that I thought about
cardamom.
for the first time in a long time. So I drove a taxi, And a lot of there were 120 cabs, so I had 120 colleagues, and they were all quirky people. I had this one guy. There's no other way to put it. He was a little short, like Pete Buttigieg, gay hustler. He was he drove a cab, and he also like had sex with older men for money. And so basically anything that it took, right? So he told me about this one. I hope you haven't eaten this morning. He told me about this one client that he had, who he had this arrangement, and the arrangement was he sold his feces to this gentleman. So a gentleman would pull up to him in like an Impala in the West Village, and he would hand him a bag with his turds, his poop, and the man would hand him $20 and drive away. And he was like, "It's the best $20 I've ever earned. I'm doing it anyway. I don't have to do anything other than go out and give it to this guy." And so this every week, and I was like, I want a piece of that action. I mean, my poo's just getting flushed into the sewage system. $20 in the early 80s. Well, okay, we're getting to that point. So $20. So we kept like trying to speculate what he might be doing with it. And I think I'm not going to, I think you could probably guess or surmise. I mean, but we didn't know. We did not know. He didn't know. He didn't care. He just wanted the $20. And $20 in 1984 was a lot of money.
Sure.
And easily earned. He didn't have to have sex with the guy. Anyway, so my colleague, he decided to become, I forget if he became vegetarian or vegan, one of those. Anyway, the next week, the man was furious. And he said, "What did you do?" And he said, and the best line of all time, "This shit is shit."
Why? But why?
Because it's
why did he want? Why did he want?
Changed, right? But we don't know.
No, but I mean, why did the customer want it?
He was like eating it or smelling it or rubbing it all over his body. I mean, that's probably one of those, right? But all of those, something.
Okay, that a fetish show is something I would totally entertain talking about.
Oh yeah,
I'm not.
I can talk about fetishes for sure.
I can talk. I'm fascinated by it.
Fetishes are fascinating, right? Like, what's the difference between a fetish and a kink? We could probably get a sex educator on. We could definitely.
I would totally. I would love to know more, because that's way outside my realm, right? Like
and it also impacts relationships. I mean, right? Like, so let's say, for example, you have we talked about foot fetishists, right? Like, let's say you have a fairly harmless fetish. I'd say foot fetish. It's silly, but it's harmless, right? So, like, but then, like, if you don't share that, or you're not willing to, or you're disgusted by it or annoyed by it, will your relationship suffer as a result of, like your foot fetish partner is not getting any foot fetish action from you? Are they going to are they going to be like, what's the word I'm looking for? Repressed. That's it.
Oh, well, I mean, perhaps.
Maybe.
And would let's say my husband had a foot fetish and I didn't know, and then I find out later that he was like going to these foot fetish sites or a place, right, where he can watch live foot action happening.
At a foot emporium.
Yeah, like where, like it's like a peephole where you just see feet.
Yeah.
Like, dude, just like...
Or he goes to like Fashion Week, but he's just staring at the bottom,
looking at the ground, right? At the feet.
Nothing above the knee is of interest.
Should I feel slighted in some way that my husband hid a foot fetish, or
he's doing, instead of upskirt videos,
right?
He's doing down skirt.
Down to got his phone pointed at the ground all the time. Should I be offended?
Calves. Like, yeah,
should I like
looking at Hillary Clinton videos, looking at the calves?
I would be offended by that, by the way, if it was like a Hillary Clinton thing. Like, you're looking at Hillary Clinton? Like, I'm so appalled.
Well,
but I don't know. Well, that's a conversation to be had for sure.
No, there's a huge conversation to be had.
It is, because there is a bit, people don't realize this. There is a huge industry. And I know people that have worked or still work or have these accounts. Nowadays, it's just accounts. Huge industry in like foot fetish in particular.
Oh, sure.
And other fetishes. It's a huge
I have also
economy
met people
in America.
and I don't mean like, oh, I know a friend. I mean, I actually do have friends who have done that kind of thing.
I know some people. So, we'll leave that there. Before we go into the news, we should point out that legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife, he was 95. She was 63, only 63, found dead in their homes.
Japanese.
Yesterday, Japanese lady, concert
But most
pianist.
Importantly, the dog is dead also.
And the dog. I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. I say carbon monoxide poisoning.
I was going to say, is if there's a cat involved, he might be on the lam. And like,
well, we don't know how that's
he
true.
killed
We don't
the
know how
whole
many
Hackman
cats were in the
brood.
house.
Like he had it with that dog. He had it with the Hackmans. No, I agree.
Very weird.
Carbon monoxide poisoning.
Carbon monoxide. That's what I'm going to say.
No
carbon
sign
monoxide.
of foul play.
Yeah. Right. And he's 95, so I would understand if it was natural causes. She was only 63.
Right.
So
no, and the dog.
And the dog too?
And the dog.
Like,
right. Yeah.
That's not normal, obviously. So
no. I mean, it's obviously some sort of gas poisoning for sure.
I'm gonna go with carbon monoxide. I'm one of these weirdos that have carbon monoxide monitors like all over the house.
That's a good idea.
Because it is seriously the silent killer. The reason I'm really weird about this stuff was because there was a whole family that lived, I don't know, half a mile from me, that where I grew up in Whittier, they died of carbon monoxide poisoning. Just one day, the kids weren't at school for a couple days, and then people, welfare
Someone
check.
went to check on them.
Welfare check. And yeah, whole thing.
Better. Yeah, Robbie's whipping us into shape. We got to race through these.
Yes. All right. Well, yeah, that's right. We have a key. Oh, yeah, we have a key.
Well, our guest is on it. Our guest is coming on a little later than usual.
Oh yeah.
So we're okay, right. Robbie. Don't worry.
Yeah, we've got a few minutes. Okay, that's right. Okay. So with that, other than, I mean, wow, Gene Hackman, legendary actor.
Maybe they all ate some bad shit.
No more poop talk. Gross. That's not a fetish I would ever accept.
Here, let me tell you about the weirdest fetish I've ever heard of.
No.
A friend of a friend.
Furries.
Was into casting. Have you heard of this fetish? It's the most obscure fetish I've ever heard of.
I don't know what that is.
So casting is a fetish. It's so obscure. I don't know if this is still true. When I looked it up on the internet, there was almost nothing about it. And the internet's primarily about sex and perversion. so it was so casting is a fetish where you want your partner to be immobilized as if he or she had broken their arm or whatever, like in a cast, like when you break a limb or whatever. So it may be the entire body, maybe part of the body, maybe just one limb or whatever.
Like playing dead, basically?
No, it's not that. It's not playing dead. Like your partner is alive, but it's like they broke their leg, let's say, or they're in traction. So they're immobilized, and for a time, obviously it can't last forever, and you get off on that. And so this friend of a friend was dating a dude who was into that and wanted to do that, and she didn't know. She wanted to be supportive, but she didn't know how to handle it. And and I was just thinking, I mean, that's kind of like, if you need that in your life, that's rough, because it's hard enough to find a partner anyway, right? Like just someone that you can stand each other.
I'm opening
You're both
a can of
attracted
worms
to each other, but to be to find someone who's even just open to something that's that esoteric. I mean, you're down to 1 in a million now.
I'm opening a can of worms here, but it is said that the former president's son, the first son, Hunter Biden, had a lot of fetishes and kinks.
Really? Yeah. Name one or two.
Well, for example, like the domination thing.
Okay, well,
was one of the things. I can see that.
That's pretty standard. Yeah, I could see that too.
And
he has the look.
The rumor mill is that very minor girls, or at least super young looking girls. Could be. I mean, we don't know, right? I mean, because we don't know, but well,
that's
allegedly,
of course, that's beyond kink. That's illegal.
That part, right? But then, of course, there are women that look extremely young.
Kink. It's an illegal kink, right?
Right, but there are, of course, women who
it's a
look extremely
preference. I don't
young,
know
and
if
I
that's a
guess it
kink.
works.
I don't know if that's a preference or if that's a kink, right?
There are rumors about his time going to the the Balkans and to Eastern Europe, and specifically,
this is not in the headlines, but it's pertinent. It looks like the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, today is probably going to release those Epstein documents today. Speaking of like sex tourism,
well, yeah,
involving
and that's what they
underage
said.
women, yeah.
That's what they said about the first son, and that when he would, you remember, because he was on the board at the Ukrainian oil company, so he was out there quite a bit, and
well, I don't think he really was out there quite a bit.
Well, for this, it was rumored that he liked to engage in videotaping his sex acts with well, we don't know if they're women or girls, but they appear to be young. Because I've seen some of these videos, and I mean, these days you don't know if you're looking at.
So I mean, it's
we don't know if it's AI. We don't know if.
I wouldn't say that's a kink, though. You know, I mean, I'm not saying it's right. I just wouldn't say it's a kink. Not that kinks are wrong, you know.
See, I don't know the difference. They're interchangeable words to me. All I know is that I didn't mean to open a can of worms about Hunter Biden, because I mean, maybe we've all just let the Bidens go away into the sunset.
Not me. I'm like, really.
Remember,
these days, if you're criticizing Trump over, like, for example, his insane video of the Trump Gaza video that he released yesterday, which is fine. You're allowed. I'm allowed to criticize him for that. But if you were silent as Genocide Joe presided over the destruction of Gaza,
don't want to hear it.
Yeah, just be quiet. Just like we don't. You can just shut up like for the rest of your life, and that's fine. Yeah.
And remember, we can't Hunter, no matter what comes out about him. Anything before 2014, maybe, but then the statute of limitations would have probably passed. But between 2014 to 2020, end of 2024, he's golden. Remember, he has a full
that's true.
pardon or whatever.
2014 to 2024. Yeah, that's right.
There's a 10-year gap in his life where he's fully protected.
As long as it's a federal case, right? He could still be charged with a local or state charge.
Or maybe national. I don't know, but I've seen weird stuff.
That's an interesting question. If he's charged with something like in Thailand, does the pardon indemnify him from possibly being extradited to a country that has an extradition treaty? I do not know the answer to that.
That I don't know. Because I've never entertained this idea, but I feel like there are a lot of things that will come out in the near future about the Biden family.
I'd be surprised if nothing comes out from these Epstein documents.
Oh, Epstein documents. Somebody's going to dig into the Biden family.
I mean, they've been partly leaked, but there's more.
So anyway, yeah. So that's what. Welcome to this show. If you're brand new, we're just kind of all over the place. But we'll actually get to the headline news right
today
now.
With more shit eating.
Hunter Biden and his shit eating grin. Puts a whole different spin on that, Ted. All right, let's get to headlines before our guest pops on.
President Donald Trump's first word at his first cabinet meeting went to someone who isn't in the cabinet, Elon Musk. Wearing his trademark dark MAGA baseball hat and tech support t-shirt under a black blazer, the multi-billionaire Department of Government Efficiency chief joined all of the confirmed and nominated members of Trump's cabinet. It was a media moment that appeared engineered to emphasize support of Musk's unprecedented overhaul of the federal government among that government's full leadership, while also underscoring Musk's deference to Trump, two of the most powerful storylines in the first month of Trump's second term. Is anyone unhappy with Elon? If you are, we'll throw him out of here, Trump said. One member could be heard shouting, "Grateful!" and the cabinet applauded Musk, who is hell-bent on taking a chainsaw to the bureaucracy they oversee. I mean, it's, I don't know. I didn't. I mean, it was definitely a media moment, but I would not say it was like.
Ted, I lost your audio.
No, I'm just changing up to my mic. My mic was
I
the
see.
wrong mic was on. That should sound better. Anyway, it was just very it was an interesting moment for sure. It is weird. I guess it's weird that you have a guy who really isn't authorized really to conduct all these layoffs, that he's doing it. I mean, I wonder if you could just sort of say, you could just, if you're fired, you could just be like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. You can't fire me. I'm staying. You don't have any authorization. I have a contract with the government.
Everything is unprecedented. Do we want to hear Elon real quick? I mean,
let's hear him.
It's very awkward. The whole cabinet was sitting there awkwardly looking at this guy who's not a cabinet member
and not dressed properly. You know, that always bugs me. And also, I'm always bemused. It's such a big room. There's like enough room for like maybe 20 people to sit at that table or more, and yet they're the B-listers who have to be over in the back, behind, in their little side chairs.
Kind of standing and hovering.
Here. This is actually, as crazy as it sounds, that is almost a literal description of the work that the Doge team is doing, is helping fix the government computer systems. Many of these systems are extremely old. They don't communicate. There are a lot of mistakes in the systems. The software doesn't work. So we are actually tech support. It's ironic, but it's true. The overall goal here with the Doge team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt, now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending like over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing; it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here, and taking a lot of flack and getting a lot of death threats. By the way, I'm gonna like stack them up, you know. But if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done. I'm confident at this point, knock on wood, knock on my wooden head, got a lot of wood up there, that we can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget. And obviously that can only be done with the support of everyone in this room. And I'd like to thank everyone for your support. Thank you very much. This can only be done with your support. So it's really, Doge is a support function for the president and for the agencies and departments to help achieve those savings and to effectively find 15% in reduction in fraud and waste. And we bring the receipts. So people say like, well, is this real? Just go to doge.gov. We line item by line item, we specify each item. So, and I should say, we will make mistakes. We won't be perfect, but when we make mistakes, we'll fix it very quickly. So for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled very briefly was Ebola prevention. I think we all want Ebola prevention. So we restored the Ebola prevention immediately.
I'm just going to pause.
Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally a new outbreak in Western Africa of something that's not Ebola.
Right.
And
it's like
not,
Ebola. Yeah.
Right. So like, dude, I get that it makes for great sound bites and makes for great stage moments at CPAC with a freaking chainsaw or whatever, but this is real life. Like this, it's not your private company where if you muck up the system, the computer system, and there's a glitch or whatever, that's a simple fix. This is real life with real people involved. And you can't, as much as I would love to see a net savings of our tax dollars, number one, maybe end the war and stop sending money to Ukraine for no reason. Start with that and then go down. But
you start with the big items first.
Just closing programs for no fucking reason without actually digging into it and knowing what the end results of those program ends might mean. you're creating a disaster. It's just chaos all around DC. And all of these guys around the table, you see how awkwardly they're like, because they know they're not comfortable with what's happening. And they're afraid to speak up. Because Donald Trump's like, we all love Elon, right? No one's unhappy with Elon, right? And everyone's kind of like, yeah, okay. Because no one wants to tell the emperor that he's naked. That's what's happening.
That's true. No, there's some terrible management going on here from Elon as well. The only positive thing here that I can see is that there's more transparency than there was under Biden. I mean, I don't even remember if we ever saw a cabinet meeting televised under Biden.
That's a big
I don't
deal.
think so.
And Jill hosted the second one. He only had like 2.
Yeah.
Jill
He literally. I mean, I feel like. I mean, I'm surprised. To me, I think a cabinet meeting should be a weekly event if you're the president of the United States. Like, why not? Once a week, you come in and you tell us what's going on,
Yeah, at least a brief update. But yeah, I mean, that should tell you all we needed to know about the Biden administration, that he had like 2 of them. Or maybe 3, and Jill hosted one of them. So that should tell you everything about the Biden administration. And then the fact that, of course, it's never been aired, all but the first greetings, hello, photo ops, or whatever. That's all we saw from Biden. But now, sure, I appreciate the transparency, but with it being this transparent, it's bringing the receipts for all of us to see in which ways they are fucking up. But now that they are fucking up and we can see, they need to fix the parts that they're fucking up. You can't just be like, here, we're cutting shit, right? Doge, we're here to cut shit. And then here are the receipts. Applaud us for bringing receipts. Okay, you brought the receipts, but I'm showing you where you fucked up. So remedy that. They're not exactly doing that at this point. They're just like, woohoo, chainsaw everything. Yeah. And that's no way to run an actual government that manages millions of lives.
There will be prices to pay. There's going to be things that get screwed up. And some of them, or one or more of them, is going to be big. And we don't know what it's going to be, but it will happen. And that will cost Trump politically. No question about it. Speaking of Trump has threatened to slap 25% tariffs on the EU, claiming the 27-country bloc was formed to screw the United States. Speaking at his first cabinet meeting, the president said that he would soon release details of the latest tariff threats. We have made a decision and will be announcing it very soon. It'll be 25%, he said. The EU vowed to respond firmly and immediately, signaling that it stands ready to retaliate swiftly. The bloc is the U.S.'s third largest trading partner next to China. Trump says he'll slap 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico next week. He didn't give any further details, but mentioned cars and said the levies would be applied generally, and that'll be on cars and all other things, he said. Trump has made a series of announcements about imposing tariffs on the biggest trading partners, but has repeatedly delayed the levies against Canada and Mexico. Earlier this week, he defended tariffs and said that foreign cars, drugs, and semiconductor chips will be hit within weeks. According to Bloomberg, Trump's tariffs could hit as much as $229.3 billion US dollars of the bloc's exports. The EU has pledged to retaliate, of course. The EU sees no justification for the imposition of tariffs on its exports. We will react to protect the interests of European businesses, workers, and consumers from unjustified measures, the bloc's executive body said earlier this month. I don't have a lot to say about that.
I don't either. But I will say I kind of don't disagree with him that he says the EU was formed to destroy the U.S.
Yeah, that's exaggeration. It wasn't. I mean, the intention wasn't to destroy the U.S., but it was certainly to counter U.S. Economic and cultural hegemony, and it was meant to be a counterweight to the U.S. dollar and to U.S. influence throughout Western and Central Europe. So I think that's true. There's no question about that.
Right. I don't think the motive was, hey, let's screw with the U.S. by forming a bloc. I don't think that was it.
No.
But its existence is serving that exact purpose, is that because they're a bloc, they they have a lot more power over the
Yeah.
U.S. than the U.S. wants for them to
Right.
have.
That's what this is. This is a power struggle.
Yeah, so that's all it is. But given that the bloc has become, I wouldn't say as powerful as the U.S., but a very close second, right? There are prices to pay when you're that block, like losing your sovereignty, having to fucking agree with everybody in the block. Like there are rules, on this topic we all have to have consensus on, but on this topic, no, you can go your own way. It's just a mishmash of things. And I think the biggest takeaway from the EU is like, one, you've destroyed individual countries, every state's sovereignty, more than I think they like to admit. And two, I think for many states, like the Deutschmark or the French franc, you've destroyed their local economies by making it, a euro and not the franc or the Deutschmark. They have less control, and again, goes to sovereignty, their food and all of that. There's less controls over it. And the migration crisis, people being human smuggling going back and forth. So there's a lot of shit involved with the EU, because they are still independent nation states in a group, whereas the United States, we're just one country that's very big. That's all. And there's like one federal law, for this or that or the other thing. So I think there's some downsides to that, but I do agree, them as a bloc can hurt the US. So they're going to strike back. And I think it's going to hurt us as the consumers. So Donald Trump, thanks.
Yeah, of course, obviously, it seems like it's a negotiating tactic on Trump's, as we've seen with Canada and Mexico, where he threatens the sanction, the tariff, and then it's like delays it pending negotiations. So
he says it's going to start on Monday, on the 3rd.
Yeah, I remember what happened with, was it Colombia, the country?
No, Mexico.
Colombia also. Right, Colombia, it lasted for like over the weekend, and then it ended. A meeting by a panel of science advisors to choose flu strains to include in a vaccine for next fall has been canceled, according to a committee member, raising concerns that RFK Jr., the new head of Health and Human Services, may be influencing U.S. policy on vaxes. Paul Offit, a member of the FDA's panel, and a doctor at Children's Hospital in Philly, confirmed to Endpoints News that the meeting by the Vaccines and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee had been canceled. The meeting was supposed to happen March 13th. It typically meets at the start of every year to give drug makers enough time to ramp up production of tens of millions of flu vaccine doses. Kennedy, during his confirmation hearings, said that he wouldn't take any steps whatsoever to interfere in vaccine policy or discourage people from using them, but said he would undertake a study of vax safety. It wasn't immediately clear if he had any role in the meeting cancellation or really exactly what happened, but you can see why people might be nervous. This, of course, comes on the heels of that measles outbreak in Texas, where at least one kid has died after being hospitalized following being infected.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of jumping to conclusions, right? That they're like, oh, it's canceled because RFK is the HHS secretary. It's now we're just not going to have any. Maybe not. Maybe
it'll just happen 2 weeks later or whatever.
Right. Maybe it's just canceled for now because the Trump administration's got all this shit cooking, and there we go with the shit again. All this stuff happening all at once. And they just need some time to settle in. I mean, the dude was just confirmed a week ago, right? Like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, and he's a falconer, and his falcons need tending. He might be out falconing right now, and that might get in the way of the meeting.
Well, he was, at that meeting yesterday, with Trump's whole cabinet. And so
you could tell his you could tell his mind was wandering and thinking of his falcons, and he's like, they're out in the hills. They need me.
Well,
my falcons are calling. It's like,
you think he thinks about his falcons more than he thinks about his hot wife?
Yeah, I have to admit, I think Cheryl Hines is very cute, but if I had cool falcons sitting at home, I'd be thinking about them more.
Oh my God. Oh, geez. Okay. Well, again, I'm not going to speculate on this. There's a myriad of reasons as to why a meeting, just one meeting can
Mhm.
be canceled. I mean, just think about for us, like when we try to do our own little show meeting, we
Yeah.
have to move things, so can you imagine a whole group of scientists, bureaucrats, like trying to get this whole thing there, and there's Cheryl Hines, trying to get everybody in one room for the first big meeting. So
This is
I
one
think
of
people aren't
those,
going to jump into
maybe it's
conclusions.
story and maybe it's not a story. I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I do think it's there's cause for some people to speculate, but
Mhm.
that's all. But they need to underscore that it's speculation. They should not say for sure that, oh, it's because he's a vaccine skeptic. Like, ooh,
Who
he's
knows?
anti-vax.
All right, here's a story from about a week ago, but it's just coming out now. About a week ago, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, an agency that's part of the Department of the Interior, said that it was canceling a notice that recommends ships in waters that are occupied by Rice's whales to restrict their speed to 11 miles per hour. That's 10 knots for you landlubbers. The notice, which affects the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf of America, depending on your point of view,
That's right. Don't get us canceled, Ted.
was put in place in 2023 to protect Rice's whale. Now, while the exact number of these whales that are still in the Atlantic is unknown, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, thinks there are likely fewer than 100 left, which makes them one of the rarest whale species on Earth, and they're protected by the Marine Mammal Protection Act. Their numbers are estimated to have fallen by 22% as a result of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. That's disgusting.
Oh my God.
That's so disgusting. The
Wow.
notice also asked ship operators to post trained visual observers to monitor the waters while they're in their protected area and to stay at least 500 meters or 1,600 feet away from any observed Rice's whales. However, the notice is no more, according to Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, who is called it under a new initiative called Unleashing American Energy and Fuck Rice's Whales, which is aimed at removing impediments imposed on the development and use of our nation's abundant energy and natural resources by the Biden administration's burdensome regulations, whatever. Aside from being exceedingly rare, Rice's whales are one of the newest known species of whales. Though first spotted in the Gulf in the 60s, the whales were first believed to be part of a family known as bride's whales. But only in 2021 did, I don't know, the 23andMe or something, genetic and morphological testing helped researchers determine that actually they're their own species. Rice's whales are big. They're up to 41 feet long, and they weigh in at up to 60,000 pounds. They are basically mostly threatened by industrial activity, and their energy exploration, oil spills, getting caught in fishing gear, and human-created ocean debris and noise are the main threat to these particular whales.
That makes me so sad, like growing up in California and seeing, like, being around the marine life, this, like, it really makes me sad. Like, they're amazing. I mean, whales, I don't know if I've ever seen one of these because, apparently they're critically endangered, but come on, Doug Burgum, come on, Doug, really?
Well, I mean,
can you just put a speed limit out in the ocean? That's all we're asking. That's all we're asking, so you don't butcher these critically endangered
I can see how this does, affect, obviously, energy commerce, but so be it, right? I mean, it's not asking for a lot.
It's not asking to get rid of the boats out of the ocean. It's saying, tell the boats to slow the fuck down. That's right. It. When you're coming near this territory, all it is putting a speed limit on there. It's not saying no boats allowed, no ships allowed. And Doug Burgum just removed that. And we're somehow supposed to just all be okay with this when there's like less than 100 of these guys left. That's so awful. That's just so sad to me.
He's an asshole.
It's just, look, I'm not, I care about the environment. I'm not hair on fire like we're dying tomorrow, but I do know it's an urgent thing. And especially we're not dying tomorrow. We're not doing AOC's, Green New Deal. I don't buy that.
That doesn't go nearly far enough. This is like a simple fix. And I can't believe they would get rid of that. Like that, just a simple fix. Putting a speed limit. Just put a speed limit out on a buoy, just floating out there, like
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Well, here we go. Serbia's president said that he was tired, and that's what made him accidentally support a Ukrainian resolution at the UN General Assembly. President Alexander Vucic, how do you pronounce that? Vucic, that's right. These Serbo-Croatian names are hard. Who maintains good relations with Russia, walked back his support, saying that he was supposed to join the 65 nations who abstained, calling for Russia to immediately, completely, and unconditionally withdraw from Ukraine. I believe that Serbia made a mistake today. I apologize to the citizens of Serbia for that, and I take the blame for that because I was probably tired and overwhelmed. Vucic told Serbian public TV. Serbia has maintained strong cultural and economic ties with Russia. And of course, Serbia also relies heavily on Moscow for its gas supply. Dmitry Peskov, who's the spokesperson there at the Kremlin, said that Russia's totally cool with it and it's fine. Of course, we heard it.
Bro.
Of course, we accepted it, Peskov said in a statement. Indeed, technical errors do happen. And of course, such a prompt reaction from the head of state is very appealing to us.
What a big whoopsie, like a diplomatic whoopsie. Like, how do you, like, I can't believe that you can be like, I was so tired when I was at the UN. I pressed the wrong button.
I think it's a button.
I voted.
I'm pretty sure it is a button.
It's a button. I pressed the wrong button at my desk. I'm sorry.
I think that I believe him. I think that's an easy mistake to make because there were two competing resolutions on the same issue. So he may have thought they were talking about the one he wanted to vote for that was Russia was in favor of, and not the other one.
Yeah, but usually they have staffers around them that are telling them, okay, make sure this is the one where we're doing
the one on
this
the left.
And we're pressing this. Yeah,
no,
like,
your other left.
Press the red one. The red one for this.
Maybe he's dyslexic.
He's
there are
usually a
dyslexic
really smart guy.
Serbs. That's the name of my new punk rock band, the Dyslexic Serbs.
Oh my God, he's usually a really intelligent guy. So I'm kind of like, wow, what a mea culpa. But then to have the Kremlin literally be so chill about it. Remember all the tropes about Vladimir Putin being outraged over any little small thing. He's going to get him
he's
killed.
A maniac. No,
he's a maniac. He's going to kill him.
That's hilarious, right? Because the one thing that if you read the Philip Short biography of him, if Vladimir Putin is anything, he's calm. He's a very calm person and not quick to anger. And there's no evidence that even in private that he rages, right? It's not like people who've left the Kremlin have ever said like, oh my God, the way like a lot of American, like Joe Biden, or Trump, right? I mean, Trump famously threw what was it, a bowl of pasta at the wall because he was so pissed about something.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Bill Clinton personally cursed about me when he saw one of my cartoons in the newspaper.
Hillary Clinton is the one that's rageful.
She's
that's a known thing.
I mean, it's a normal thing. It's actually, you'd have to be. There are very few, I think, American politicians who don't curse and rage and yell. You'd have to be. I mean, I guess Obama was meant to be relatively calm, but I don't know if that's even true privately.
But the fact that Putin came outright the next day and said, "It's cool, bro. I get it. You're tired. We're good." Just goes against the narrative.
It's like whatever.
There you go.
All right, let's jaws it and bring in our guest.
All right.
So we're going to talk about the economy. Historically, Bloomberg has used a recession probability model that incorporates factors like housing permits, consumer sentiment, corporate profit outlooks, and Treasury yield gaps. It doesn't always work, though. For example, in October of 2022, Bloomberg projected a 100% chance of recession by October of 2023, driven by aggressive Federal Reserve rate hikes, tightening financial conditions, and persistent inflation. Obviously, that didn't happen. Here we go again. Consumer confidence fell this month by the most since August 2021 on concerns about the outlook for the broader economy, that according to Bloomberg. Many consumers actually think we will see a recession later this year. That pessimism has more than half of consumers putting off major life plans due to their uncertainty over the future state of the economy and the possible consequences of Trump's tariffs. Of those, About a third said that they're putting off buying a house, while I was going to say probably the interest rates and the lack of housing stock might have something to do with that, while 1 in 6 have put off education plans. Maybe they think, well, under Trump, you don't really need to be educated. And 1 in 8 have pushed back retirement. And that, I think, is an actually useful measure. Joining us to talk about this is friend of the show, Achilles Larrea. He's the CEO and founder of Larrea Wealth Management and the author of the book Wise Up With Your Money. Check out his new YouTube channel, Achilles Larrea 1061, Aquiles Larrea 1061. Achilles, thanks for joining us here on the TMI show.
Thank you for having me. And I'm still worried. You guys still got me worried about the whales in the previous segment. Put a buoy out there. Come on, I agree.
Put a speed limit out there. Come on. That they're getting chopped up by the boats, and these are endangered species.
There's not even 100 of them left.
That's so scary. And like RFK Jr., I know it's not his department, he's HHS, but he is a known, old school environmentalist. You would think he would speak up and say, "Hey, Doug Burgum, what's up with this, man? Like, put a buoy out there with a speed limit."
Doug wants to get rid of him. He wants more. He wants more species that could do work for us.
I know. Oh, I'm so sad about that, and I'm sad about our economy.
Should we be? That's the first question.
I think.
Should we be? I mean, I feel I'm not so convinced that we're about to, go tits up.
Recession?
Yeah, I'm not convinced of that at all. How about let's ask the expert.
Guys, the R word, really right now? Come on. All right, let's break it down. Let's break it down. All right. How do you have a recession? 2 negative GDP quarters. Okay, so 6 months worth of GDP at a negative growth rate. First off, the growth rate in the economy, although slowing down, is still moving at a pace that I'm comfortable with. Unemployment is still somewhat controlled at this point. So the factors, those are the 2 biggest factors that I see for the R word to get yourself all crazy about and worked up. Guys, it's not happening right now. I don't see it. Maybe I'm missing the boat on something here, but what I think at this point is that we are definitely in a bit of a slowdown. The question now becomes, is it the tariffs going to throw us into a higher inflation mode, which thereby starts curtailing the growth, starts upticking the unemployment and driving us towards the R word? That really is the question.
And possibly contributed by rising unemployment due to laid off federal workers. How much of a factor could that be?
That's such a small segment right now versus the population as a whole, but it is a concern, of course. But at this particular point, it doesn't, you can go and find 100,000 jobs more, and fire all those people. You're still not going to have a percentage move to the downside that people are saying. Right now, there's a lot of anger out there because he was going to say he's going to bring down prices. The administration said they were going to bring down prices, going to help find more employment, and they're doing the exact opposite under the guise of, hey, we're just cleaning up the mess that the previous administration put in there. Come on, guys, let's see what's really here. Whenever you talk about Donald Trump, whenever you talk about this administration, the first question I would ask myself is, where is the money? What's happening with him and his administration? Who's making out on this? And I don't have the answer right now, guys, but when he makes an announcement that's shocking, you should be asking yourself, okay, who's getting paid on this?
Well, Achilles, I mean, he's already now moving forward with the latest tranche of tariffs, right? He pulled back for a month. The last time that you were on, we were talking about this. It was going to happen with Mexico and Canada. And now he says he's going through with it. And he says it's coming on Monday. The cost of everything has gone up. I mean, I know everyone's like hyped up about the eggs right now because obviously it's a kitchen staple. Everybody has to have eggs in there, to make a lot of dishes. I would say in my household, we love eggs. But everyone's frothed up about that. But now you have this new trade war looming. not only with our neighbors, but overseas in Europe. Ultimately, isn't that price hike going to be paid for by the consumer? And how are we going to afford that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a great observation and all. So what I see is exactly that happen. The pricing of current goods and services are not going anywhere anytime soon. All right. I don't care what this administration says. The reason being is, as you said, once the tariffs start hitting us, we are paying it from day one, because those costs are going to be passed on to the consumers. We are going to pay a lot of money for it, and there is no relief in sight for high priced goods, in my opinion, at this particular point in time. Also, you have to ask yourself beyond that, look to history. Anytime the United States went into a protectionist or isolation mode, the economy shrank, the goods and services went up, and led us into, the question is, will it lead us into the R word, or will it lead us into the D word? All right. Now, I'm not going there just yet. I don't believe that we're heading towards the R word just yet. But this is, I can most certainly see why some economists are saying, yeah, this could possibly happen towards the end of the year and what have. I don't believe that. I think there were more factors in 2 years ago for a recession, to appear. And I
Achilles,
really thought we were going to have one 2 years ago.
let me ask you
Me
about
too.
two questions. First, one sort of micro, one sort of macro. So micro, is there still, it's my feeling that there's still pent up demand from the COVID lockdown, right? For consumers that are they're still looking to go out, buy stuff, travel. The airports are crowded. It just seems like, so I'm just wondering if that's your assessment as well. And then my other question is the idea of the traditional question of, recession versus non-recession versus, obviously we haven't seen a depression in a century, but I mean, is that metric maybe no longer useful to describe the current situation? Seems more like a froze session or something, where it's like, people have houses on sale listed, but they stay on the market for 200 days because they're priced too high and nobody can afford them and interest rates are high. But unemployment is low, but there's not a lot of hiring going on. People just aren't really moving. In other words, there's an ennui in the economy that's not really reflected by traditional barometer of statistics. I mean, inflation's not really high, but prices remain high. So, people are still like unable to really afford the rent and other things. So is there something else going on, something new going on that probably could be described differently?
I think it's a lot, it's this fear, uncertainty, and doubt going on right now, the FUD. And what's happening is that people are, as you mentioned, the actual numbers, people enjoying themselves and taking those discretionary costs are still flowing now. It is never a sustainable thing in the economy, but it is still going on right now. Purchases are still being made in housing. Let's just take that for a moment. Housing, it's about to turn from a seller's market into a buyer's market. You're starting to see incidents where the sellers are having to concede more to buyers. And, I was telling people wait 6, 8 months, but it started earlier, where you can go put a bid on a house and you're going to be able to pick it up, and you might get some concessions in there as a good price, or a seller's credit, they call it. But overall, we are seeing a positive trend with negative sentiment. So that's that X factor you were talking about,
That's so weird.
where what's the underlying thing? Still a lot of positivity out there. And I got to tell you, I'm so positive I glow in the dark sometimes. But when it comes to these type things,
Are the numbers wrong? There was a piece in Politico came out about a week ago that talked about how unemployment doesn't, like you're counted as employed even if you work like an hour
Right.
a week.
Yes. I was
You're
going to
not
bring that up
employed
too.
really.
BLS data is a scam nowadays. We can't trust BLS data saying that we're less than 4% unemployment. I mean, Ted and I are examples of some unemployed people right now. We were made unemployed,
But
4
we're
or
not
5 months
counted as
ago.
unemployed.
Why
Yeah.
wouldn't we be though?
Well, there's a lot to that, and you're right. A lot of people are working part-time, and those numbers are getting counted in there. People are working the gig economy, and those numbers really don't figure into that. People will do at the bottom line, I think, guys, is that people will do whatever it takes to survive,
Yep.
for their
Sure.
families and for
But they'll be
themselves.
miserable doing it.
Of course, but at the same time, it will be done. And how it figures into the overall unemployment numbers and the like is not an easy figure. And we're just going to have to go on some of the traditional data, but the economy is still in a good mode versus when I want to say, around 6 years ago, or even just recently with the inflation being 11% or more. We're in a better place. The inflation rate is still somewhat measured and controlled. Yeah, it may go up, but the real caveat, the real danger here is prolonged tariffs and their effect on the sustainability of these particular numbers that we're seeing now. Are we going back to 7 to 9%? Are we going back to 11%? I don't foresee it right now, but once again, protectionist and isolation policies have never been good for the US economy, will never be good for the US economy. It's a gimmick. It's something that I don't believe in ever, because we make so much money with our partners than just trying to think we're going to tax them and shoot ourselves in the foot.
Let me make the argument for tariffs for the Trump point of view, right? Which is that, okay, so prices go up, obviously, when we slap tariffs on imported goods. And when there's retaliatory tariffs, we suffer, we're not able to export as much as we'd like. But at the same time, then we protect American jobs, and that obviously has a ripple effect in the economy. If we especially, we still have some manufacturing, we'd like to keep it, what we've got. So the question is kind of I think policymakers during the period of deindustrialization of the 70s through the 90s really made a mistake where they tended to emphasize the American consumer at the expense of the American worker. And this almost seems like tariffs are an attempt to redress that. My personal feeling is it's probably too late. It's probably not the right solution for the situation that we now have. But I mean, that's the counter argument, right?
Yeah, and I agree with that, what you just said. I also think that the American worker is still in jeopardy right now. But here's what could happen, and this is the positive side. The only positive side of tariffs that I could see is that, say they start bringing the factories back to the United States, which I really honestly don't see big movements on that side, but who knows? But we start to see more hiring. We start to see more expansion. This is where the tariffs could come in. And ultimately, I believe this administration, tell me if I'm wrong, they want to eliminate the IRS. And if the tariffs take hold, and let's say it really goes to the countries that are paying them, how different would this economy be if we as individual taxpayers are not subject to paying the high taxes that we are right now?
I mean, first of all, I mean, you and I both know, Achilles, there's not enough money in tariffs, right, to make up for income taxes, right? Yeah. It's like less than 2% of revenues into the Treasury currently come from tariffs, and even if you jack it up, you're not going to get to 100%, right? But like, I guess the question is, isn't that like the most, you're going back to a 19th century economy, which would be so insanely regressive that, we can't even imagine the level of poverty and misery that we would see, across every economic class that's not super wealthy.
Right. And imagine kids working full time during during that time. Imagine no worker safety rules. It was a pretty miserable time. I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Money
But
stopped
right now,
circulating a few times. It was that bad.
we most certainly need to take it back to the 70s, when we had the oil crisis, and we had high interest rates on everything. That is what I foresee being more of a reality than anything else,
Yeah,
but not at this
when
point.
America was at the peak of its power, we had a really high income tax on the wealthy.
Oh yeah,
the
it was over
post-war period
50%.
before the Vietnam War. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I also
Trump
believe
is
that.
moving in the opposite direction. Let's not forget. We're it seems like what they're doing, he says it's temporary, is that we're going to slash these taxes and basically retain these loopholes for the ultra rich temporarily, and we're going to fund it by cutting Medicare and Medicaid. So that's, for me, even though the data the last 2 quarters are not consistent with what we would predict for like recession, because of the rhetoric, I think, coming from the Trump administration, that's why I'm really negative and bearish on what's going to happen to the economy by Q4, because if we're funding these tax cuts on the backs of the poor and working class through, Medicare, Medicaid, stuff like that, these aid programs, that's how we're going to fund it. And he says it's temporary. I think that's bad news for the regular retailers. Like, for example, Joann Fabrics is going bust. All 800 stores being closed. All these different stores are going belly up. And we're not seeing anything but these Silicon Valley bros really expanding their empires.
And they don't hire anyone is the problem.
Right.
I don't know if there's really to me, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I think the daylight I'm seeing between Achilles and you, Manila, here is about timing. I think what I'm hearing Achilles say is it's not going to happen this year. It could happen, but if it happens, it'll be later.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think that if it's going to happen, it would probably be either first quarter of the year or second quarter of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's not going to be as bad as people are saying. Right. But once again, the administration could completely reverse course. They've done it several times already in its brief tenure. So as far as that's concerned, it could completely do a 180 and they get rid of some of those policies because they see very quickly that they don't work. But who knows, guys? It's not really a sustainability thing. What if, I pose this to you guys, what if the economies that we're slapping these tariffs on play ball? That's going to be a completely different ball of wax. We're going to also see growth. We're going to see unemployment remain controlled. And those are the factors
I think they
that
will
go
play
into
ball.
What's that?
I think they will play ball. I think we've already seen that with Colombia.
Well, we saw it with Mexico, and we're definitely going to see it with Canada. It's just easier. It's the path of least resistance. Play ball, play nice, and make money. That way your particular country continues to grow.
Yeah, Robbie, you've got a question for Achilles.
Yeah, just real quick. One of the things that Elon Musk was saying in his earlier soundbite that we played was that one of the reasons he was taking a chainsaw to the federal government was because of the national debt, trying to get the deficits down, trying to get spending under control. My question to you is, does the national debt even matter anymore with it being as big as it is? And if it does matter, why would they be pushing for tax cuts for the rich instead of keeping revenues up to pay down that debt? It doesn't make any sense. It seems like they're talking out both sides of their mouth. And I don't understand.
Yeah. Administration speak with forked tongue. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. Robbie, great question. What I think, if you go a little bit further with what you're talking about, you have to ask yourself, all right, we're going to do all these policies, yet at the same time, we're giving the rich a tax cut because they still believe in that nonsense of trickle down economics, because that's absolute nonsense. And it's been proven that it
Or do they
really
believe
does
it,
not
or
work.
are they just saying it as an excuse just to get what they want?
That's it. It's a measure of control, in my opinion.
So does the national debt even matter? Is there
I don't,
is there even a point in trying to pay it down at this point?
we've had national debt since the Revolutionary War, and they gasp, oh my God, it's this and all that wonderful stuff, when they should be saying to themselves, the type of debt that we have, a big portion of that we've had for a long time, and it's good debt. It's not something that we've not seen. Although, people forget the debt, if you take it from 100 years ago and look at it now, we're talking exponential growth. But we've also had exponential growth in our economy, in our growth of the country. At that time, we could say, hey, we only had 100 million people, just talking out loud. And then now we're over 350 million people, I believe. So it could look completely different 20 years from now. There will still be a national debt. That's not going away. I don't think it's relevant anymore. I personally believe that some of that debt is good to have, and we continue going forward. I think the debt hawks it's a folly to try to think that you're going to get rid of the national debt by cutting Medicaid. Did you look at there was a Wall Street Journal this morning article this morning, and they were talking that all these cuts that Dodge is doing won't even have an effect of 4% on the United States as a whole. So they know the numbers. This administration are not fools. They are painting a picture of, oh my gosh, there's this A, B, and C. And when the reality is truth told, is that it may be absolutely false. It might be XYZ. Guys, when there's a recession, it doesn't come up on your door and knock on your door, say, hey, I'm here, guys, let's have a party and stuff like that. No, the recession comes, you usually find out 4 to 6 months after. That's how economics works, because they don't have all the numbers in to tell you, hey, we're in a recession. But you sure feel it. I mean, for all we know, we could be in a recession in particular sectors, So foodstuffs, maybe. Other sectors, maybe. We don't have all the data. And the data is inconclusive when we get it. There's not enough to say definitively yay or nay.
So what's so frustrating about this, it reminds me of Malthusianism, right? Which was Thomas Malthus in, I think it was the 1780s. He was a British demographer, and he kind of believed that the population around 1800, year 1800, of the world would tip into the point where it would become unsustainable and nobody could have enough to eat. We would all starve to death. Humanity would die. Obviously, that didn't happen. But there's and sort of like with the national debt, there's sort of like a psychological feeling like, well, look at this chart. Look at like how fast the debt has grown. Look how fast our population has grown. How can, in my lifetime, the population of the world has gone up, I would say, I don't know, maybe 5 times. It's probably quintupled. And it's like, how is that possible? And so at some point it's going to become unsustainable. We should stop before it does, but we can't know in advance, A, if that's even true, or B, if it is true, what the evil number is that goes too far. And then I guess it's like, so we just keep going and going and hope we don't hit that number, or we don't know that number even exists. If that number doesn't exist, I mean, it's really a very strange psychological experiment.
Yeah, and who knows what the reality is? We could be within the matrix and all that crazy stuff, but let's not go down that rabbit hole. Let's stick what we got here. The factors for a recession are not in play at this current moment.
Mhm.
I do not believe that we are at a point to head into that negative growth. I think that, there's some rumblings, absolutely, but the numbers do not support it. They never support it before a recession actually occurred. There are some signals, but I don't believe that we are at that point, guys.
As a
Maybe next year.
freelancer, I'm a canary in the coal mine. I've always known when a recession was upon us before
Mm.
it was declared, because when that happened, my payments started to come slower, or some of my clients would go out of business while I was waiting to be paid, or I
Wow.
would get cancellations. I mean, anyone who's a freelancer and supplies to a very strapped industry like journalism, you just know it. And then it's like, well, duh, it was a recession. I knew that. I'm not seeing any of that right now. It's like there's, everybody's paying on time. Everybody's like, they're not worried about paying. No one's canceling me. It's not like everything is robust, but everything's just puttering along.
Like I said before, recessions don't come and knock on your door. They don't say, "Hey, come on." What recessions do? You feel the pinch, like you said. You feel the pinch before the pinch arrives.
Before you see the pincher.
The jaws.
Behave yourself,
who's
Manila.
Like,
Stop
damn it,
pinching,
who's
Ted.
pinching? That's great. Like, where did that hand come from? And it just creeps up behind you. I agree. I think personally, I think it's gonna happen before Q1 of next year. I'm gonna call Q4. Last thing I want to pick your brain about, Achilles, before we let you go, is, I mean, how is Wall Street responding to all of this? Because obviously there's a mishmash. It's a mixed bag of things coming from Trump, right? Like all of these big tech companies, these meme coins, just everything is all over the place. How is Wall Street responding to this? This is your area of expertise, your wheelhouse. How is Wall Street responding? Because however they respond, it does have ripple effects to us regular folks, the consumers, like Jane Doe out at the grocery store.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's first and foremost call the canary in the coal mine, like Ted said. What I see, especially on the street right now, is the fact that we've had a run up of 10% in 2 months without, we're just getting the correction now. So we're seeing that movement to the downside. It's what I tell my clients, this is normal. This is how you have an efficient market. All right, this is not a long-term trend. Nothing that I've seen on the investments that we are in says that. As we talked about before, orders are still coming in. There is still growth guidance by these companies to the upside. AI is in its infancy. It's like a little baby. It's not even 2 months old. All you can do is cry, kick, and scream, and of course go to the bathroom. So you take care of the diaper. But overall, the overall economy, over the stock market, should we say, is in a positive trend, because we see how resilient the stock market comes back there's a lot of volatility, so it sure freaks everybody who doesn't know about volatility in the market out. It freaks you out a little bit, but the resilience that we have seen in the market honestly has been somewhat breathtaking. And I foresee more of the same this year, that we're going to see run up, correction, run up, correction throughout the year, and still walk away double-digit returns in the market. I see fund managers, hedge fund managers, private equities gearing up to make a ton of money this year. Present company, we're included. We're doing the same thing. We think that our clients are going to do really well. Maybe not as well as last year, but definitely above 10% year to date. barring any calamity long term or swan event like we saw back in the pandemic. But I really don't see that at this point. I don't see anything supporting that at this particular point. So I'm going to call the recession, as I said before, between Q1 and Q2 of 26. And I'm also going to call for a new high in the S&P and in the Dow Jones that will occur over and over again this year. Don't be surprised if you see it happen more than once.
So that would obviously have some political implications for the midterms.
Absolutely. It's people, they don't touch anything in the midterms if the economy is going great.
Yes.
So it might be more of the status quo. But if it starts falling apart and we start having long-term corrections, we're absolutely, the consumer, like they did in this election, they're going to ask themselves, well, what you're doing is not working, and maybe we need to try something new, which would be logical. And, you can't blame the voters for doing that. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, that's all anybody can do is we'll see, right? I mean, this the thing for presidential elections, they say, ask yourself, were you better off 4 years ago? And with these midterms, it's very simple. It's fresh wounds, because they'll say, were you better off 2 years ago? Right? For Congress, like, were you better off 2 years ago? People can think back that.
And Trump and the Republicans will not have the usual defense. I'm not sure how effective it ever is. But, he inherited this economy when he came into power from Biden. It takes a while for because he's so brash and so radical, and he's made big promises about, like, only I can fix it, about everything. He owns it. He owns everything. No question about it.
And that rhetoric is going to most certainly ramp up in a shorter period of time. Like you said, right before the midterms, people are definitely going to ask those hard questions. They're already doing it now. Look at all these contentious town hall meetings that the Republican side is having with their voters, because the voters have not foreseen, or they have not seen any change in the daily cost of living. And that was what the Republicans ran on.
Yeah, they're doing stuff that they didn't run on. I mean, who Trump didn't run on the Gulf of America, or getting rid of USAID that nobody'd ever even heard of.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all we can do is, I think it's gonna be a wild ride, and it's gonna be bumpy. I think by Christmas we'll turn around and be like, oh, you've been pinching me all along. I think that's what's gonna happen.
I'm with
by
Aquilas.
Christmas.
I think I'm on Team Larea here.
I'm super negative about all of this. I'm like, boo. Like, this is. I think there's. It's my spidey senses. I'm gonna say my reporter spidey senses that I feel something's not right.
My cartoonist senses say, yeah, next year maybe.
I think it's not right. I think it's coming sooner, but we'll see. We'll see. Of course, we'll invite you back on, as always, to kind of break it all down, because you're there. You deal with clients, you deal with Wall Street. You kind of get a sense of both, right? And see how confident they are, especially if your clients are not feeling confident. I think that says a lot too, right? So I think you're a good person to ask. So
hey, a lot of traders at the stock exchange that I've talked to are very positive right now on the market, but they agree with me. We need the corrections. We need to have that uncertainty and that regression back to the mean, as they say. They famously say, we need the regression to the mean to keep what I call the poker game that is the market honest. So we need that. Don't be afraid of it if you're an investor, and if you're not sure, talk with your advisor. Talk with someone who actually has knowledge in this arena.
Yeah. Bottom line, whether it's my timeline or yours, the point is the pinch is coming, and it will reveal itself in the very near future. That's the takeaway. It's coming. It's going to be in this presidency for sure. Like,
Ted, are you getting the sense that Manila just wants to get pinched?
I think she wants to be pinched. Yeah.
You better talk to her partner about that.
I'm already feeling the pitch.
Yeah, we were talking about kinks earlier in the show. So
I know Whole different topic. Different topic. You're supposed to enjoy your weird kinks or fetishes or whatever. I'm not enjoying this pinch right now, having been laid off.
Pinches
So
in your mind.
I don't know. I'm just being negative Nancy right now. So I didn't invest the way Nancy Pelosi did. So
Just
Can you
remember
believe that a congressman can invest without impunity?
Right.
If I went and did the same thing, I'd be in jail for 20 years.
Right. It's incredible.
It's crazy.
We should have followed Nancy Pelosi's stocks. But
you still can, right? There's that investment club.
There's that tracker
that does that. Yeah.
I think it's like the Nancy Pelosi investment tracker, I think is what it's called or something like that.
The Pelosi
It's pretty
index.
funny.
Yeah,
I think so.
exactly.
It is the Pelosi index. It's true.
But I always remember something that my old boss at Bear Stearns told me when he was training me. He's like, every day, this tells you how old the story was. Every day, 100 million shares change hands in the New York Stock Exchange, right? He was like, 50% of the people who are in these transactions are right, and 50% of them are wrong. Every trade, one person's making a mistake, the other person's doing the right thing. And you just have to remember, rising market, there's it's just as many opportunities in a declining market. Just as many.
Absolutely.
So
you can make money in any upside or downside.
Makes no difference. Yeah, it's about the bet.
That's right. That's right. You can hedge. You can make money at any market. Always appreciate your expertise, Achilles. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Achilles Laria. He's the CEO and founder of Laria Wealth Management. He's author of the book. His newest one is called Wise Up with Your Money. It's available now. You can check it out on Amazon, for example, and then go to his brand new YouTube channel. It's his name, Achilles Laria 1061. That's the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your time, Achilles. We'll be talking with you again, I think, pretty soon.
My pleasure, guys. And hopefully we'll start to see some even more good news in the economy coming our way.
Yeah, we have to talk Manila down from her pinch.
I'm just negative Nancy. That's all, because I'm not in the Nancy Pelosi boat. That's all.
It might be just the day. Today she might be negative. Tomorrow she's like, next thing you know, blue skies and rainbows.
No.
She's INTJ.
Death, rain,
we don't roll that way.
Death, rain, and destruction for 2025. That's my outlook.
All right.
Thanks, Achilles.
Bye, Achilles.
Bye-bye. I wish I had a more sunny disposition about this year. I just don't. There are some things that are, you should look up and be like, okay, this is great. Like the war coming to an end, I think. Who knows? Keir Starmer's coming today.
I worry that might not happen somehow.
Right. Yeah. Because Sir Keir Starmer should be rapping on the White House door any minute now. And then tomorrow, the little dictator, Zelensky, will be here. So who knows? I mean, if there's anything to be positive about, I was positive about the end of the war 3 days ago.
I'm still positive. I think it's not as straightforward and linear as I would like, but Donald Trump's not as straightforward and linear as I would like. But I think it's really obvious what he wants, and he's just trying to work both sides to get where he wants to be. Yeah, mm-hmm.
For sure, it's leveraging. But I might be more positive about the economy after we see an actual end to the war, because I feel like. We're not in a traditional wartime economy, because usually when we're in a wartime economy, things are better.
Well,
it's not better.
Proxy war is never that exciting,
Yeah, I know. I guess it's that caveat, the proxy war. Anyway, that is going to do it for us, guys. Make sure you guys hit the like and the follow, the subscribe button, whatever platform you're consuming this on, to help us grow this thing, so we can keep on going and be back here again tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and the next day. Ted, final last words before I send us out?
Oh, not at all. See you tomorrow.
Hasta mañana, guys. Thanks for being here. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.